Hello. There are a lot of things that I've been holding in my heart that I feel like I need to document. I'm not sure if or when I'll make this video public, but I do feel like I've got to record some of these experiences and thoughts so that we can look back on them and remember how things went as we're making these decisions and making plans. Sometimes, I don't know, I'm guessing you've probably experienced this, but I'm sure we all have, but you feel prompted to go in a certain direction and you start heading in that direction and things don't go exactly how you had pictured or planned, and you start to question, like, was this the direction? Was my revelation or the things I thought were inspiration not inspiration? And I've started to notice in my life that a lot of times God, it's like hiking, right? You go and you're like, okay, I got to go up that trail. And you don't know what's around the corner until you get there. And then you see the next steps more clearly than you would have. You couldn't have seen that if you'd been where you were. And sometimes I think God puts us in certain situations. He leads us in a certain way so that we can see things more clearly. And then we know where to go next, even though it's not exactly what we had thought or where we had thought we were going initially. And as we felt, we need to sell our home, and that way we'd have the money to start this school home in Mexico to help abandoned children, and the home isn't selling. We've started to question, like, well, what's next then? Do we stay? Do we figure some other way out? The market's kind of dropping, and if we can't sell our home for what we need, then we can't really do the work that we were meaning to do. And so we've had some questions, and especially from this last trip to the orphanage, I've also just been noticing just the extent of human weakness, my own personal human weakness especially. The first time we went, there was a little boy there that I just felt a really soft, well, there were several that I felt a really soft spot in my heart for, but this one particularly, he's on the spectrum a little bit, and people didn't realize that about him, so he was getting in trouble often, and I worried a lot about him, thinking he was a bad kid just because he thought differently than other people. And I just started to think he needs a different environment, and the adoption started to cross my mind a little bit. And then the next time we went again, I saw that, and we kind of briefly said, I wonder what it would be like, and I started asking some questions about how to do it. And then when we were there over the summer, there was more kids that I was like, oh, I would really like to adopt them too, and they need a different environment, and they need a loving home. And this last time we were there were more, and I just started to realize, like, I'm one person. I barely have time to give my kids one-on-one time as it is, with as many as I have, and then I want to, how am I going to do that with more and more kids? And that's never going to end. I'm always going to meet more kids who I feel like they need a loving home, and I have this mother heart, and I want to nurture them. I want to give them those things that they so desperately need and so desperately want and wish for and pray for. And I just feel this so much limits. I have time limits and energy limits and resource limits, and I'm human, and we have so many weaknesses, and just this realization has hit me. I mean, I knew that before, but just how limited I am has been more prevalent. And so as these thoughts, my weakness, as well as the magnitude of the situation and how many children are with this need, and the unsurety about how to go about this and what we're supposed to do, has been hitting me a lot lately. And after we got home, there was this one night where I got in bed, everyone was asleep, and I just said, Heavenly Father, I love my life the way it is now. I love my kids, but I want to have more time with them. I want to be able to give them more of my attention. And all this work that we're starting to get into, like, is this foolishness? Am I thinking I'm being directed just because I have these desires in my heart? Or am I off base? Is there something I'm missing? Something I'm not understanding? Am I just trying to do too much? So I've had a lot of these questions, and as I laid in bed, I thought, can I stop? Can I just go back to life the way it was? Back to normal, and not do this anymore? Can I give this back? I don't know if I want to do it anymore. And as I cried and shared these thoughts with Heavenly Father, some of the kids' faces from the orphanage started flashing in my mind, and I cried some more, and I just thought, I can't help them all. What am I supposed to do? And the next day after these thoughts, and I was writing in my journal, and I just mentioned some of the things that I had been thinking about at night, and was it worth a sacrifice? Was I asking too much of my kids? And at devotional, I mentioned some of these thoughts to them and asked them what they thought. And one of my kids, my daughter, said, the quote that comes to mind is from A Christmas Carol, where Marley says, mankind was my business. And she said, God never said, focus only on helping your family and make sure that they're okay. He asked us to also take care of the widows and the orphans, and as a family, we've been blessed and we can do that. But another son said, no, I think it really shook him. He's younger, and it shook him to see me be in a vulnerable position where I was doubting, because I think he just put a lot of reliance on, mom knows what she's doing. And when he saw that vulnerability in me, he's like, I do think it's foolish. I don't want to go. And he got kind of upset, and I didn't understand why he was so upset at the time. Kind of took me by surprise until I had the chance to think about it, and I realized, it's because he saw a little fear in me, and it shook him. And later on, he apologized for saying some of the words he said, and I apologized to him for not always being sure about everything and trying to figure this out. But it was kind of neat because in that same devotional, we're trying to read the Book of Mormon in Spanish. And so we got out the Book of Mormon, and I said, let's see if, as we read today, if there's any answers to some of these questions. And we were in a book called First Nephi, chapter 5, I think. And it's where this couple, Lehi and Sariah, are asked to send their kids on this pretty dangerous quest, right? They had to go back and get a record from a man who was a very dangerous man. And they don't come back for a while, and the wife starts getting really scared, and she tells her husband, you are a visionary man. You put us on this, made us come out here in this wilderness or in the desert. We're going to die. Our kids are probably dead now. And she just complained and was so scared. And her husband reassured her, saying, I know I'm a visionary man, and if it weren't for these visions, we wouldn't be being led by the Lord, and our kids are going to be okay. And they did come back. They learned a lot of lessons in the process. They were almost killed. It was very dangerous, but they came back as better people with a lot of lessons learned. And so I asked the kids, is there something in here for us? And it was brought up that we are also being asked to do something that feels a little scary. And if these visions are from God, these desires, then it's going to be okay. We're going to be safe. And so that was that scripture just gave me a lot of peace throughout the rest of the day. And it's helped carry me through in a lot of ways. That with a lot of music I've been listening to, that helps center me. But right now, where are we at? What do we do next, right? And one of the thoughts that keeps coming to my mind, it's about this orphanage that's in Tijuana. It's not one I've ever been to, but I've looked at their webpage and their website, and it started with a couple that lived in San Francisco, and they felt this call to go help the orphans in Mexico. And they sold their home, and they built something in Tijuana. It's just a small little orphanage, and they started taking in kids. And it's grown. This was 35 years ago, and it's grown to now they have 3 orphanages in 3 different countries. They serve about 800 children through their orphanage, but as well as their school and their after-school programs and their family programs and all these incredible things they've been able to accomplish. They even have a ropes course in their Tijuana orphanage, and I really want to learn from them. And so I was looking into, they have a missionary school, they have internships, and they're actually quite affordable. We would be paying less than we're paying here. And so I'm kind of feeling like I'm going to be going to Tijuana next week just to do some legal stuff that we need to do to get started and all the work we want to do there. I want to go visit this place and see if maybe that's where we're being led to. There's a lot we don't know. They've been doing this for 35 years. There's a lot we could learn from them to avoid making some mistakes that I'm sure we could avoid if we learned from someone with experience. And so maybe we will rent our house or continue to Airbnb it for a while, and maybe until the market goes up and we can sell it again. And in the meantime, go and learn from these people, go stay at this place and get an education on how to do this. So that's where I'm right now. That's where I'm feeling like we need to go next at this moment. Now, I've never seen the orphanage. I've never seen what it's really like. You know, you can present a certain thing online, but maybe it's different in person. So when I go check it out, I think I'll get a better, clearer idea if that is what we need to be looking into or the direction we need to be headed. But that's kind of what the plans are right now, looking into that. Also looking into renting in Tijuana and seeing if we can foster care to get started on some of the things in that direction, helping kids. Even if we can't yet start an orphanage, we could do there's a pilot program. They don't have the foster care system in Mexico, but they're piloting right now. So maybe we could start there with a few kids and learn and see and start to at least understand what the next steps would be and how to help better. So those are kind of a couple of ideas we have. Obviously, the other one would be to just stay here until we can sell the house and move forward. But I feel like just this great desire to start something now. So I'm not sure what that is, but we'll keep trying to figure it out. There's also things we could learn here. There's people who have gone to other countries and started things like this that I want to talk to. And maybe if we stay here, we can start learning more about those resources and when talking to more of those people and figuring out how to get my kids to learn Spanish more quickly as well as we're here. But that's where we're at. A lot of good things. And I feel like that's how God works with me and probably many of us, is one little step at a time. We see something and we think, oh, that's the path. And then it doesn't go as planned. But I think he wants us to be in that space of unsurety because that's where we're closest to him. I pray a lot more sincerely. I seek him more when I don't know everything. And I think that's what he wants. He wants us to be near him because then he can do miracles with our lives and with our desires. So it's not a bad thing. I can sometimes feel frustrating, but I'm starting to learn to live in that space and learn to enjoy it and to be okay with it and to not feel like it's a wrong place to be. So I hope those thoughts are helpful, and I will probably do another video as I'm in Tijuana next week to some of the things we're doing. Maybe I'll share what some of those experiences are and what I thought about that orphanage and things. So stay tuned for that, and I'll talk to you soon.